Hey, what's up guys? In this video I'm going to be demonstrating how you can calibrate Ableton Live to automatically offset your recordings so that the inherent latency is compensated and you don't need to move tracks around. I'm going to demonstrate kind of what that is as this video goes on. So, you're recording real world instruments and vocals and stuff like that, and that's all well and good. And you have a decent sound card and or audio interface, what have you, and you have the ability to achieve direct monitoring. And I'll explain what that is. Hold on. All right, this is direct monitoring. You're hearing this mic now, and this is real time. There's no latency whatsoever because it's mixed from within the interface. And you will get latency and lag when you go from interface to computer, when you go from digital to analog to digital round trip. There's some latency involved. So in order to combat this, you use something called direct monitoring, and this is from within the interface, and it works quite well. If you were to monitor from Ableton, unless you have like a super, short set, there's going to be delay. It's just a matter of not having it noticeable or compensating for it if you are direct monitoring, given your sample size, depending on your CPU horsepower. But yeah, let's take a look at this right here. So we have the ADAT8 in going into this channel, and if I enable it, we have a delay. It is delaying. That is the delay. And we need to compensate for this because when we record, this delay will be, recorded into the lane here, and you'll constantly have to record, do a take, do a take. I'll just scratch. That's the take, scratch take, and then it's kind of a little bit late, so you kind of have to always move it over, and align it and stuff like that. And latency is not variable; it's kind of the same. So if you compensate for it, you'll record kind of perfectly every time. That's generally the problem that this video is all about to rectify. So how we're going to do this is we're going to make sure that the direct monitoring is off for the microphone. You want to calibrate each kind of interface one by one. Mine is made up of two. So right now I'm calibrating the preamp, and I need to calibrate that differently because it uses light pipe. There's a little bit more latency in the one that I'm using, so it's like worst case scenario. So you got to calibrate them differently. So first thing you want to do, make sure that's off. Make sure that you don't hear anything coming through Ableton, because we're going to be putting the microphone up to the speaker in a second, and that'll give you feedback and it'll hurt. So make sure that's muted. So let's go into options. This is the first thing you got to do. Reduce latency when monitoring. So this 9 out of 10 times, this will be fine because you're actually not even listening to this. This will be out of sync with the rest of the track. If you have anything that is causing latency, I'm not going to get into how latency compensation works within a DAW, but that will basically ignore this. This track will be out of sync, but it already is, so who cares? And it'll only affect ones that are being monitored in. So this is very important, and this is making sure that the values that we input will actually do something. So let's look at what we have right now, actually. Let's turn off latency when monitoring, and I'm going to turn on the metronome, and I'm going to boost the gain on this mic. I'm not going to turn it on. I'm just going to put this microphone up to the speaker. And I'll hit record and you can see, right? So this is the inherent latency that is going on. I'll actually right click and go quarter. So this is where the metronome falls when you're playing in live. And if you had a beat or something going on and you recorded a vocal, the vocal would be offset by that much. That is, that's, like a 30-second. It's noticeable, and it's not cool in my opinion. So when that happens, yeah, you got to be like, okay, and then you kind of have to do some guesswork to like move it over. But like, really? Is that what we want to do? And what we can do here is actually we can line it up. No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're going to do it the old school way. So it is at a time, right? How are we going to fix that? Well, we're going to reduce latency when monitoring. So this will not be compensated. It will be its own independent track relative. I'm sorry I'm so bright, but the sun just came out. Next up, we're going to go into preferences, and there is your audio tab. And I have to use a high buffer size because I record video, and in order to do this, it has to be a high buffer size. But this is like, pretty worst case scenario, right? And this might be, 50% of cases where you don't have a super powerful computer, or you're recording a lot of input and you have to compensate. You're using direct monitoring, so it doesn't really bother you anyway, but that's something you have to do. So it'll calculate the input latency and the output latency. These are guesses, and the overall latency right here, 53.3, that's also a guess. So we're going to adjust this, right, by typing in negative 53.3, right? And we're going to bring that down to, close to, 0.01 milliseconds. Your number will be different. You just have to compensate the overall latency. Just put a negative in there. And this will give you kind of a good start for, what's going on. All right. So we will close this, and let's give this a listen. Not going to do much, but let's just do it anyway. Right. Still at a time, but this gives us the ability to do some cool stuff. And, it really kind of, what we did before, it fixes the MIDI clock and stuff like that. But anyway, let's go to this little D here. And this is the delay compensation. And what we can actually do, I'll show you what you'll do. We will go narrow, actually. Leave that on. And it should be here, but it's actually here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this area. And I'm going to look at the bottom. And this duration is, it says right at the bottom, I can't actually point at it. The duration, bottom left, see there's time, start, and length. And the duration is 0.00055. So that's telling me that the distance between this and this is 55 milliseconds, roughly. So if I bring this up to 55, it'll give me a really good starting point. And what I'll do is I'll put the microphone back up to the speaker. And guess what? It is in time. And yeah, that is the magic number for the particular interface that I'm using. And yeah, this can be, variable number or whatever, but this works quite well. And you don't need to move things around. And yeah, you can comp and do all these fun things, and it's in time, which is very exciting. And yeah, there you go. That is how you calibrate Ableton Live. You can calibrate your MIDI clock with this, any other instrument that you have, things like that. I'm sorry, I'm so bright. Exposure. But yeah, that is essentially it. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you learned stuff. Take care and have a good one.